Hey everybody, welcome back to the vlog. So today we decided to take a day trip out to Kobe from Osaka and went ahead and took the Hankyu line out there. In fact, the day we rode the train, they were having this special opening ceremony for a new line that was coming out. So it was fun to catch it in the middle and see what's going on. I have to say that one of the nice things about this train was the green velvet seats. They were incredibly comfortable and it made the hour train ride out to Kobe just really pleasant.
Our train ride was about 45 minutes, not too bad. And so we took it all the way out to the main Kobe station. And this is that main area right outside the station. They have KFC, they have Burger King, they have a multitude of restaurants, so many different steakhouses. We went on Google to go ahead and find our restaurant that we wanted to eat at. So we found a steak place. But as you can see, there's so many different places. This is Steak Land. There was a ton of different steak places we could go to, but we decided to stop into 7-Eleven first to get some cash. That is a huge travel tip that we could give to anybody who's going to Japan. If you are going to get cash, every single 7-Eleven has an ATM, so it's very convenient and it's safe. But yeah, here's a look inside the 7-Eleven. That was kind of there's masks and gloves in that aisle. The next aisle, there's juices and stuff. This is a look at their fridge. They have a multitude of beers, a lot of Kirin, a lot of Asahi, so many different kinds. Definitely a good time to pull out your Google Translate on your phone and try to figure out what they have. A ton of coffees, hot and cold. Sodas, green tea. Everywhere has green tea. There's so many different flavors, sweetened, unsweetened. This is a look at the fridge section. A lot of different yogurts and prepared smoothies. Here we're getting into the prepared foods that are really good. And of course, my favorite section of the whole 7-Eleven. This is where you get the egg sandwich. Next, in this aisle, you can see dry goods or foods that you need to add water to. It looked like there was some curry paste, starters. And then they have this freezer section where they have a bunch of freezer meals. One of my favorite ice creams that I got, the wafer one. And they had Coolish, which is that kind of pouch vanilla ice cream that you might have seen in a vlog earlier. So good. One of my favorites. Only 170 yen. Such a good deal. And yeah, so we got out. This is one of the main areas. We turned, and this is the restaurant that we found. It's up in this building up at the third floor. So here's a look at that.
The restaurant we ate at is called Moriya. It specializes in Kobe beef. And the restaurant itself was relatively empty. We came in the afternoon, kind of between lunch and dinner. So we basically had the place to ourselves. And here you can see the restaurant. It's just a pleasant space. Here's the menu, so you can take a closer look at all the things that they offer. And they offer a lot of fantastic steaks. And to be honest, the prices aren't bad, even if the conversion rate wasn't that bad. So it was really kind of a nice treat to go enjoy.
So we had our drinks come out, and then we got a cup of onion soup. It was really good. It even had a couple pieces of meat in it that was, really delicious. And the chef personally brought out our steaks. I was so excited for that. And then we got our salad. It had kind of like a glaze on it, more of like a balsamic, like a vinaigrette. And next, we had our sauces. The first one was a lemon soy sauce. The next sauce was a miso. It was really good. They had some fresh sea salt, some wasabi that was ground, and some dehydrated garlic chips. All of these were great sauces to have with steak. I think my favorite was probably the lemon soy sauce. And here is my steak cooked. It was amazing. I'm not kidding when I tell you that it is the best steak I have ever had. It was so delicious. The marbling was insane. Perfectly cooked, medium rare. Yeah, I think about this steak still to this day. It was so good. But here's me picking up a piece so you can kind of see it. It just melted. The way that steak just melted in my mouth, I will never forget it. And there's Michael's steak. He really liked it too. It was a different cut. But yeah, so that is trying the first bite. The meal also came with a choice of white rice or fresh bread. The bread was amazing. I absolutely devoured it. And here's a look at the plate. Empty. Fully empty. We ate everything on the plate. That lets you know that this was an excellent meal. Top tier. They gave you coffee afterwards. I love that. But as we were leaving, we saw like this kind of animatronic crab on the outside of this seafood place and had to record it. I just love how many interactive little like moving elements they have in signs. It feels like they had that very like everywhere. But anyway, next thing we headed to was the aquarium. So it was called Atoa, and it was an aquarium / art exhibit right on the water. So it was beautiful property. It was insane to be able to see just the view from the top. It was amazing. So here is kind of the front of the aquarium. It looked relatively new. I'm not sure when it opened. Here are our tickets. It was not very expensive to get in. I like that door, like to get in. I thought that was cool. And they had a front little reception area with these cool little interactive maps, which I had to get one. I really appreciated that it was black and white. Honestly, you could color it. I thought that was cool. And this was the first exhibit art space that you were kind of into. It has tanks and also a ton of mirrors and lighting. I really like that. I thought that was so cool. I really liked how interesting and different all of the tanks were. This tank was floor to ceiling. It was incredibly impressive. It had so many fish and it even had stingrays in it. And the tank goes down through the floor and there's a dome at the base that is the roof of the bar, which you will see at the end of the video that we went to. It was insane. It was so cool. You can tell they spent a lot of time and money on this aquarium / art exhibit, and I feel like it was definitely worth it. It was just amazing to see all of these different tanks, the diversity of wildlife in them, and it was just so cool. I really liked how they tied in the half aquarium, half art exhibit kind of aspect in this. It was interesting to see the, different art pieces they had hung up of the fish that they had on display. So that was really cool to see that. This was another one of my favorite tanks. They had two different kinds of garden eels, and it was just fun to see them kind of poking out of the sand and interacting with each other. Another one of my favorite tanks was the seahorse. I thought it was really cool that they had these bright yellow seahorse, and they chose to contrast it with kind of darker or more neutral toned foliage to try to, show the contrast. But they were so bright yellow in person. The camera picks up a lot of it, but not entirely all of it. And it was interesting to see them kind of go around and be up against the tank or the black filter that they were in front of. It was just so cool to see the different types of seahorse, moving around. But that yellow one was just so impressive and breathtaking. The color was just really cool. Something definitely worth seeing. And I like that they had the spotted seahorse in there as well, so you could kind of see the contrast and the difference between them. That was really cool. But yeah, again, I really like how they didn't just use rectangle tanks. It wasn't just kind of recessed into a wall, how many aquariums are. They were interactive. They were in the middle of the room, and you could go all the way around them. They were curved so that, kind of showed different areas of the tank, and some of them were shaped differently to highlight different, fish or what have you in the tank. But here's another look at some of the art exhibit aspects they had of the whole, experience. I really like these watercolor fish. I thought that was really cool to have, with the watercolor with the fish. And they had these signs kind of depicting what the artist had, wanted to include with these pieces. So that was really cool. And just all around the exterior wall, they had so many different pieces of artwork of the fish that are actually in the aquarium. So I thought that was really cool. It's a porcupine sea urchin and razorfish. The next area of the aquarium art exhibit was called Elements, the Spirit of the Forest, and it had a lot of interactive elements. You could even pet some of the animals. They had staff there. It was really cool to see. So this first one had like a American woodchuck, and that was interesting to see. It was really cute to see him in his little enclosure, just kind of messing around with his little pieces of wood and snacking on whatever they put out for him. It was cool to see. I thought he was a cute little guy. We hung around there next to his enclosure for a little bit. But yeah, it was just very interesting to be around the different types of animals they had in this exhibit. The little paws, the little paw on the glass, so cute. They had mammals in this forest part of the exhibit, so that was cool to see. But they also had aquatic creatures. They had some newts, and it was interesting to see them swim around in the water. I really liked how it just looks like they're kind of like floating in the water, their limbs out. That was so cute. But yeah, there was all kinds of animals in this area. They even had a chameleon. I think this might be the first time that I had ever seen a chameleon in person. I thought it was so cool. I thought it was funny that his eyes were just moving all around. It was interesting to see that he was green even though he was on wood. I don't know. I thought maybe he would just try to blend and camouflage into it, but he did have his hand on some of the leaves, so maybe that's where the green color is coming from. But it was very special to be able to see a green chameleon. And yeah, here's another shot from the other side. He really did not close his mouth. He left it open a ton. But the next animal was the wallaby. It was really interesting to see they had a few of them. Seemed like it was lunchtime, so they were all snacking and kind of fighting over the food. It was interesting to see. Yeah, it was lunchtime, so they were eating, and afterwards they were kind of pooping. So it was a interesting smelling room for that bit. But next thing we went over to was this tank. I really liked that they included a bunch of different types of fish in this tank, and they had a lot of foliage in it. And the way that they set this tank up was the bottom was the fish and all the foliage, and the foliage continued upwards all the way to the ceiling. So, it was beautiful. I really think that they put a lot of time and effort into this forest part of the exhibit, and it showed. It was beautiful. The other corner of this exhibit had two tortoises sleeping right next to each other. Their heads were kind of right next to each other. It was so cute. I'm not sure how old they are. They looked pretty old, but it was really just cool to see. There's a bunch of black and yellow ones on this plant. This was probably one of my favorite animals to see in this part of the exhibit was the red-eyed tree frog. I thought it was so cool to see them, and they were all sleeping right on the glass. So you can see from this angle the top of them, and they're huddled in, their eyes are closed, and just right on the glass you can see all their little toes. It was so cute. Definitely fun to see. It would have been cool to see them when they were awake, but it was really interesting to see how they sleep. They were just right on the glass.
So on the next floor, we found this amazing aquarium. So if you look at it, the wall's kind of curved, and that's because this tank actually sort of arches over you. And as you look up, that's basically the rooftop. And basically, you can also view this tank from above. And so it was really just a fascinating view to be able to sit there and just look up at all these fish swimming up and around you. And it was really just a neat space and a really neat experience to kind of just enjoy. This whole section of the aquarium wasn't just an aquarium, it was also a library. So in the background, you can kind of see various bookshelves and things like that. Here you can see some beautiful purple fish. I thought they were just gorgeous to look at, and so I really enjoyed them. They're called an Asian bony tongue, and they were really just vibrantly colored and fun to look at. And so if you look around, here's the library that we were talking about. So there's all sorts of books on the shelves. You can definitely pick them up and take a look at them and read them. Most of them were in Japanese, so we didn't have too much luck without Google Translate. There you can see me. And so if you look closely, you can see some books. If you know, you know. Here's the Unagi book that we found. And I also just like the coloring and the lighting that they did. It kind of just gives it a fun vibe to walk around and enjoy. This tank had turtles and those spotted rays, and it was surrounded by benches. So you could literally just sit on the edge of the tank and just look inside and enjoy all the different little creatures swimming around and just hanging out in there. It was just fantastic. It was really just relaxing, to be honest. We found a book that looked somewhat similar to me, so we figured we'd take a picture and do a side-by-side comparison to see how it looked.
The next art installation that they had in the aquarium was these fish made out of plastic. They're entirely made out of plastic that they found and collected in the water. So that part was kind of sad, and it just really showed the effects of plastic pollution, and it was a really impactful piece. Honestly, this was one of the most important and pieces that stuck with me after going through the exhibit. It was sad, but it was also important. Anyway, this next clip is us at the Gashapon machines. Again, we're always at these machines. But we went through quite a few 100 yen to try to get the tree frog. I wanted that tree frog keychain so bad, and luckily the employee saw us trying to get whatever keychain, and she took pity and opened the machine and got it for us. But the next exhibit, so beautiful. The lighting on it was crazy. They had these plexiglass panels over the huge koi pond, so it was huge koi fish, different kinds. It was the light and shadow Miyabi exhibit. And it was just really cool to see the light change. It was maybe like a 3-minute loop of music and lighting, and it would go from light to dark. And it was just so breathtaking to see these koi fish out and about. They had these coin operated machine. Oh, here you can see my nails. I had koi fish on my nails, so I had to get a few good photos there. But here's us feeding the fish. They had these little balls in a gashapon machine that were full of koi fish food. And anytime you would go up to the edge of the water, the fish would come right up to you and they would be ready for their next meal. So it was just cool and interesting to see all of the koi fish. And yeah, they were very hungry. That you could see all their little mouths opening right up at the edge, and you sprinkle fish food and they were just all racing to catch it. It was just a really cool room. You see the food?
Got it.
The next exhibit was called Planets. It was darker, there was stars projected everywhere, and the tanks were either spheres or domes, and it was just really cool to see. There was even like a light show that was connected to it. So here is a look at that part of the exhibit. So after the planets exhibit, we headed up to the top floor and there was a cafe. So here is showing the menu. A lot of things were sold out. It was the end of the night, but we were able to get some good stuff to enjoy. While we were waiting for food, there was another exterior exhibit. This is on the rooftop area. So there was the capybara and water tanks for the otters. Here is a closer look at the otters. By the time we got there, they were asleep and they were so cute. They had these woven hammocks and they were just lying right next to each other, just fully passed out. So, so, so cute. But yeah, it was just nice to be able to get to see them. I'm sure it would have been better during the day, maybe around like a meal time when they're up and active and swimming around. But this was just so cute, them just completely wrapped up in each other. And the next exhibit we saw was the North American beaver, and he was up. It must have been around his meal time, or maybe he just likes to be out, but he was doing laps. So he would just keep doing his little laps and swimming around his little tank, going around and around and around. And it was just fun to get to see. He kept like putting his arm out when he came to the front of the tank. And I don't know, I felt like he was waving at me, but it could have just been part of his lap right here where he put his hand up. The next animals we got to see were penguins. I was so excited to get to see the penguins, and they were so cute. They were all laying on their bellies, very loaf shape. It reminded me of my cats and made me miss them. At this point, we had already been gone for over 2 weeks, and I was really ready to be home, but also I did not want to leave Japan. This was an amazing trip. We had such a great time. But yeah, anyways, afterwards, we went up to the top, the very, very rooftop. That was the rooftop exhibit, but there was another level, a set of staircases where you could go up and see the entire Kobe wharf area. So there was another, like ship out there, and there was quite a few hotels. The marina was very impressive to be able to see all the boats in the area. It was really interesting just to see the choice of architecture for all of the buildings, and it felt like they went together. I'm not sure how much the architects coordinated with each other, but it felt like they just tried to cultivate a very similar aesthetic for all of the buildings on this marina, the wharf area. This was a sign that talked about the rooftop and the tower and everything. But yeah, there was some benches up here, and it was just a great area to sit and take everything in. After walking around the entire aquarium and art exhibit all day. But yeah, so you could kind of get a view of the area. This was one of my favorite parts of the aquarium, was coming up to the rooftop. And there is Michael coming into the shot with our snacks. So I believe that is what the next clip will be. And yeah, here it looks like we got the capybara corn dog. So, so cute. They had this little penguin wrap around the wedges. And this was a churro. It was like an Oreo churro that had activated charcoal in it that made it so black. They had these little otter cookies that you could add onto your cup that the straw went through. Ugh, I had to get it. It was too cute. But yeah, I got like a type of green tea drink. I'm not sure which fruit it had in it, but I remember it being very good. And Michael got a coffee. I thought all of the art on it was so cute. But next, we were hungry, so we wanted to go get dinner. And we found a place that had dumplings. So we got a couple of soup dumplings and shumai. They were very good. We have found another place that had steak. We were in Kobe. Might as well get another thing of Kobe beef. This was nowhere as near as good as the steak we had before, but it was still very good. Came with garlic rice. That was excellent. Here is a look at the shumai. I had got it on one of the soup spoons, and it was fresh. You could tell they had just wrapped it and prepared it. This food hall also had pizza. So we had some really good pizza. We had not had pizza in quite a long time. So it was nice to get like a margarita pizza. The dough was fresh. Everything was freshly cooked. It was a weekday, so maybe that explains why the food hall wasn't that busy. But every single restaurant we went to in this food hall had excellent food. This was the karaage chicken we got. But I don't know. It just felt like everywhere we went in Japan, regardless of it, if it was a place that had 5 stars or what have you, there was excellent food to be had everywhere in Japan. That is one thing I definitely miss about going there. But yeah, we decided to head over to the bar. And as you can see above the bar, there was a disco ball in this fun little area. I thought that was so cool. And above the center of the bar was that tank I was talking about earlier in the video. It has like kind of a domed area so the fish come down into it. But yeah, it has stingrays, it has fish, and it even has some sharks in there. And it was just really special to be able to sit at the bar and look up and see part of the aquarium still. We ended up staying at the aquarium till close, so we went and it was like nobody else was up there. But Michael got a flight of different beers. I'm not sure what they were. He really enjoyed them. He really liked them. And I ended up getting a like a freshly squeezed peach cocktail. So one was a Bay Ale, one was a West Coast IPA. This is that peach. It was like straight peach juice. It was insane. So good. But thank you so much for watching. Here's a clip from us, catching the train back to our hotel room. We really enjoyed this Kobe day. I hope you guys really enjoyed this vlog. But yeah, I think we have one more Tokyo vlog. And that's it for our Japan trip. I hope you guys have really enjoyed these vlogs as much as we have. I've really enjoyed going back and editing them. It's been so fun just to look back at our trip and really just be able to see how much we captured.